Welcome to yet again another gooning tier list. Now, this is only my second gooning tier list. If you didn't watch the first one, it was ranking the Street Fighter 6 characters by how much they goon. I was thinking to myself for a few days, what should the next tier list be about? And the only solution I could come up with is DBD. As we all know, the DBD community is one of the worst out there, but more than worst, I would argue it's one of the most depraved. Now, whether that be because of their ideals, the things they actually find fun, or the things they, touch themselves to, I will leave you to decide what that means. However, I want to take the chance today to sit down and rank every single killer released as of now, up to Jason, and how much I think in terms of lore they might goon. If they even do in the first place, because obviously some of these are not going to goon. Now, I thought to myself maybe I should do Survivors first, but I'm going to be honest with you, I don't give a shit about Survivor. I don't play Survivor. I practically only play Killer. So, you know what? This is probably going to be a long video. Let's just not waste any time. In case you don't know, I'm going to explain the tiers now. Masturbator is the highest tier, reserved for not only the most frequent but also the freakiest gooners. These gooners use toys, their powers, or any other type of weird gadget to get their rocks off. Therefore, this is the highest tier only for them. Gooning aficionado is a bit similar to masturbator, except you take away the freakiness. You might have some similarities when it comes to how often they do it, but when they do it, it's a lot more standardized and they don't use as many freaky toys or gadgets as a masturbator would. A common gooner is, as the name implies, a common gooner. They might goon 2 times a week, maybe even less. It's just the normal human amount. They don't do any freaky shit. They just do it because, it's a normal thing to do as a human. Infrequent gooner is similar to common, but even less often than the common gooner. If the name didn't imply that enough. They do it maybe once every 1 or 2 months. It's very rare for them, but every now and then you will get the urges, and they do have to satisfy them. Retired gooner it's a tier that is variance, because you can have people here that either gooned a lot or gooned very little, but the point of the tier is that at some point in their life they were one of these tiers, but due to the circumstances, and in the case of this tier list maybe getting into the fog, they have become retired gooners. Never gooned maybe once, pretty self-explanatory. They either can't or have never gooned, or if they did try it, it was only once, maybe twice, didn't enjoy it, and therefore don't practice it as much anymore. Off the bat, Trapper. Trapper is a weird pick, because he's not masochistic. I don't think he enjoys pain or inflicting himself pain. It's been pretty heavily hinted at that the pain he has to endure is because he's one of the few killers that actually goes against the entity, and so the entity has to punish him because he is a naughty boy. That being said, though, his lore doesn't show anything about him being an insane gooner, so I wouldn't go too far with it. I think if anything, he was like an infrequent gooner or common before getting grabbed by the entity, but after getting grabbed by the entity, I think I would say he's an infrequent gooner. I thought about putting him on retired gooner, but here's the thing. When you think about the position he's in, he's a prisoner. He's an unwilling prisoner by an all-powerful entity that all it does is punish him whenever he doesn't do what it wants. So, if you find yourself in this position, I feel like you would need more time to yourself more often than not. You would need to find pleasure in the little things, and I don't doubt for a second that little thing he has between his legs would give him enough pleasure. So, Trapper is going on infrequent gooner. The Wraith. The Wraith is a very sad character. Okay, cars just love going past my house. The Wraith is a very sad character. Because he is part of the White Eyes theory. So, it is... I actually don't even know if that theory was confirmed, but it does hint at the fact that he doesn't want to do the things he's doing. He is kind of forced to, like many of the other killers, but he has this aura to him of just being so sad and depressed all the time that I just don't see him being freaky like that. He is confirmed to have something going on with Nurse. Now, as to what that thing is, it's never really been delved into, at least I don't think it has, but I don't think that would mean he's a gooner. If anything, that just makes him more of a romantic. So I'm gonna go ahead and say He's a retired gooner. I don't doubt in his life before joining the Fog, he was a pretty normal gooner, but I feel like now he's just not into that. Hillbilly, man, this isn't even hard. I feel like Hillbilly, dude, Hillbilly's just, he's probably never gooned. As tragic as that is, if you know his lore, you know he was always just held in captivity, always inside of a room. He didn't even get to know what life was like. All he could experience life through was a comic book he was given and the TV. That was all he had. And I don't doubt for a second he was never even able to explore, you know, the joys of human anatomy and, you know, playing with yourself. So I'm just gonna be confident in saying he's never gooned. He probably doesn't even know what gooning is. Nurse, yet another sad character. You know, we're seeing a trend here. Most killers are very sad characters, but Nurse especially so. It is very tragic what happens in her lore. That being said, though, I think she is also a retired gooner, but she actually gooned more than Wraith back when she was alive. Because if you know her story, you know, her husband died in war or died of something, I don't know. So she was alone for a while. She probably couldn't find a partner. And she was in a very difficult state of life. You know, the stress of her job was getting to her constantly. So I don't doubt for a second that she actually leaned into doing those kinds of activities more often than you would think. That being said, though, not with her now being in the Fog, I just don't see her partaking in those activities anymore. Michael Myers has never gooned, and I guarantee you he has never gooned. Michael Myers is not human. He just isn't. I mean, apart from his physical capabilities, everything about his mindset and mental state will tell you that he is not wired like a normal human being. Therefore, I don't even think he has urges. I don't even know if this guy shits or pisses. Does he even eat? I don't think we've ever seen Michael Myers eat. That being said, though, yeah, I just don't think he's gooned. Like, being for real, he doesn't strike me as the type of guy that would even try to. He obviously knows what it is because, you know, he had sisters and, you know, he was probably introduced to things he didn't want to see. And also he was in a mental asylum, which, you know, every now and then a patient might ask you if you want to see them jerk off. I don't doubt that might have happened. So he probably knows about it. I just don't think he partakes in it. The Hag. Dude, never. No. I actually think... No, actually, I think it's less likely. But here's the thing, though. With the Hag, I don't even want to talk about her before the Fog, because I'm pretty sure she was a kid. So that's just off limits. I don't want to touch that with a 10-foot pole. But after the Fog, no. Like, I don't even think she has genitalia. She is basically just bone and mud. And has practically no like not organisms, but no organs to speak of. So I don't even think it's possible for her to do it. The do I even have to explain myself? The doctor has to be one of the freakiest, deakiest, weirdest in the Fog. Dude is just obsessed with doing anything and everything to cause himself pain or a shock. I don't doubt it. I don't doubt for a second that if you drop this man's trousers, there is going to be a fucking lightning rod in there with like 150 volts pulsing every 5 seconds. I don't doubt that for a second. Freakiest motherfucker alive. The Huntress. You know, the Huntress is, again, another weird situation because it's another child that didn't grow up normally, you know, with normal parents. She only grew up with her mom, and it was like a hunter-gatherer lifestyle type thing. Very primitive, very out of touch. She probably never even saw a man, like, most of her life. Assuming she would even be straight, which she probably isn't. If she even is, like, sexual in any way, like, I wouldn't be surprised if she's asexual. So it's kind of a difficult situation. I'm gonna say, though, because of how primal and how raw she is with a lot of things, and you know, I don't doubt that she at some point might have gotten the urges, because, you know, that's just a normal human thing. It's more than likely that she started doing it. And actually, you know, knowing how these like primitive women are usually, I mean, not just women, like primitive humans as a whole are hypersexual as fuck most of the time. Like, kind of like cats and dogs, the way they're just fucking any second they get. So I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't go as far as to say gooning aficionado, because I think her whole life she's been so focused on hunting and gathering and like surviving, that it's probably not ideal for her. But I'm gonna go ahead and say she's a common gooner. Leatherface, he's probably another one that he might have done it once. You know, it's a pretty harrowing not imagination, but a pretty harrowing situation to even think about. But I don't doubt he might have caught one of his family members doing it at some point, or maybe one of his family members told him about it. But he's so childlike and so like out of touch with everything and clearly not smart that maybe he tried it, probably didn't like it, or he's just never even tried it in the first place. You just know. Oh my god. I don't even want to get into it, but I'm not going on Masturbator. Actually, no, fuck that. Yeah, he's going on Masturbator. Because here's the thing. I just know this man and his dream powers are a menace to his cock. I can't even begin to comprehend the amount of scenarios. Like, you know these people that are constantly trying to to have lucid dreams just so they can crack because they're so lonely in life. I feel like he's that, but like he does it 100% of the time. I don't doubt this guy has the craziest fantasies and he brings them to life in some way or another. Now, in the fog, I feel like that would be a little harder for him, but just like his lore says, his power was diminished in some ways and amplified in others. I would not doubt if one of the ways the entity rewards Freddy is just giving him his sick pleasures. I don't even want to get into it because that's just disgusting. Amanda, I'd say retired gooner, and I would put her, actually I think yeah. I think she gooned before going into the fog. She probably was like a common to gooning aficionado, but after being in the fog for a bit, and her being so devoted to Jigsaw, I would not be surprised if she has like dropped it for the most part. Maybe does it like once every few months or however you measure time in the fog. So yeah, I just don't see her doing that all that often. The clown, he's a would he be considered a masturbator? No, because like I mentioned, masturbator tier is reserved for the freakiest motherfuckers. Like, you gotta actually start using tools and toys or insane strats to beat your shit. And I don't think Clown is all that crazy with it. I think at his core, I mean, he's literally the only killer to have actual porn as an add-on. He literally uses porn to be more powerful or to change his ability in some way. This guy is definitely a gooning aficionado. I just don't think he's that interesting with it. I think at most he might use the fingers he cuts from the people he kills, but I don't even want to get into that. The Spirit, is she even of age? Okay, so the Spirit is actually my age. I always thought she was supposed to be a minor, but I guess it makes sense she wouldn't be, because why would she be in a game like this if she was a minor, even if she is a killer? Okay, so, man, I don't even want to say this shit low-key. I think she was a common gooner, honestly. Before getting killed, I think you might even be able to put her up in gooning aficionado, because I think we all know how teenage girls are. Well, teenagers as a whole, but especially teenage girls sometimes, you know, it depends. It depends. Not everybody has the same hormonal cycle, and not everybody works the same, but there's definitely an overlap with some people. And I think she was definitely up there. But as of coming into the fog, I don't think she has gotten all that crazy, to be fair. I think if anything, she's toned it down a bit. With her constant state of being either angry or very sad, as you can see her facial expressions change, I don't think she would be doing it for too long, so I think it's definitely diminished. But with her being a teenager, you know, and I'm also her age, so I know how this shit is, I don't doubt for a second she's hammering that shit. Gooning aficionados, you know, since it's 4 of them, I have to lump them together, and honestly, because it's 4 of them, it kind of amplifies the gooning power. And again, a similar situation, edgy teenagers, hormones are raging. Between the 4 of them, there's like 2 crushes. So like, I don't doubt for a second they're constantly gooning, thinking about each other, and especially now that they're in the fog and they can just do whatever the fuck they want, I don't doubt for a second they're up there just like doing actual goon. The entity probably gives them like a goon cave to do whatever they want between each other. That's as much as I'm gonna say about the Legion, because I fucking hate the Legion. Actually, worst character, whatever. I'm not gonna rant about this. The Plague. The Plague is I would say she. You know what? I'm actually gonna go ahead and say she's probably only done it once. With how devoted to religion she is and how like sanctified she is, especially from the time frame she comes from, which is like pre-Christ or somewhere around that time. I wouldn't be surprised if the way women were treated back then and how she was raised, that she just would see that as like blasphemy or something sacrilegious. And if anything, might have tried it once. That is why I'm putting her above Hillbilly and Leatherface. I feel like she's probably sinned. She probably tried it once, but repented. That being said, though, I just don't see her doing it that much. Ghostface is 100% a gooning aficionado. I think Legion does it more than Ghostface, though. Ghostface, is very clearly a weird, mentally fucked up person. I wouldn't say he's as mentally deranged and depraved and freaky as these two up here, but he definitely, oh my bad, he definitely does do activities of the sort a lot of the time, and especially with the pictures he takes of survivors. I mean, I know he wants to have like a trophy wall or whatever, but hey, I don't buy that shit, bro. I do not buy that shit. You do not need that many pictures of the people you kill. Demogorgon has never done it. Like, this thing doesn't even have a dick. How the hell would the Demogorgon even goon? You know what? I'm not even gonna get into that. There's probably some fanfic about this somewhere. Whatever. Oni, one of my mains. Oh man, Oni is such... It's so tough. I would say he's a retired gooner as well. He probably gooned the least out of all these, though. Again, he's from an earlier time. Now, you might argue that doesn't help the case as much, because especially in those times, women were seen as like objects, and especially people of Oni's stance could just take women at will. But he did seem like a loyal husband, and he cared about his family name a lot, so I don't see him like breaking tradition that way. But at the same time, I don't see him doing it all that much. I felt like if anything, he would have been an infrequent gooner when he was a human, but now that he's like an actual Oni, yeah, no, he's way too angry for that. If the only stick he's touching is his Kanabo, I don't see this man gooning in the fog whatsoever. Deathslinger, Loki, a similar situation. No, actually, fuck that. So he's old. Obviously, we have eyes, we can tell. But even though Deathslinger in his lore is not treated as like that bad of a guy, again, he's part of the white eyes theory, so he's probably not seeing the same thing as somebody like Clown or Ghostface. He is a slightly better guy than somebody, again, like Oni or fucking Myers. But I still think he's an old perv. He probably like whistled at women while they were walking through the street. And now in the fog, he has less time for it. I'd say he probably goons more than Huntress. I'ma go as far as to say that. I think Deathslinger goons more than Huntress. Executioner. Why did I say Executioner? Pyramid Head. Fuck. Actually, this is kind of a weird thing, because, like, technically, I don't think he has a dick. I don't see a reason why he would have a dick. But then again, we do remember those, like, essay scenes from Silent Hill where he was, like, essaying mannequins and stuff like that. If you count that as gooning, I guess you could go as far as to say he's, like, top of gooning aficionado. But I'm gonna say no. I'm gonna say that doesn't even count as gooning. He's like Demogorgon to me. He can't even goon. Actually, I'm gonna put him above Demogorgon because at least he does have somewhat human anatomy. You could argue maybe he does something to himself. It's not even a creature. Like, this is not even a human. It doesn't have the mindset of a human. It wouldn't have any reason to goon. Blight. I'm gonna say retired gooner. Since he was a science man, he was probably very educated, very formal. I don't see him doing it as many times as Oni would. But at the same time, this is what he is now. He probably doesn't even have a dick. And if he does have a dick, it's probably oozing blight all the time. Or maybe, you know what? Actually, that blight might even be like a lubricant. Let me shut the fuck up. Yeah, I just think he's retired. I don't think he can goon anymore. I'm going to go as far as to say. If anything, maybe in somebody's fanfic, he would probably be like gooning aficionado. He uses blight as lubricant, and he could like jerk off extra fast because of his speed. But I'm going to try and be as serious as you can be with a tier list like this, and as objective as possible. And objectively, I just don't see Blight doing it that much. Twins, I think I don't even know the name of the girl. I don't care about fucking twins, but I feel like they've probably done it once. Her specifically, obviously Victor, dude, Victor's a baby. He died as a baby. He couldn't do shit. She's probably done it once, but with how horrible her life has been and how she's been on the run her whole life, I just don't see her taking time to do that. Trickster is a master fucking baiter, man. I'd say he's not worse than Doctor or Freddy Krueger. I'd say he's still a bit more tame than them, but I 100% see this man putting a mixtape with a bunch of victim screams, jerking off while looking at himself in the mirror and shoving that bat up his ass. I don't doubt it for a second. This man is disgusting. Nemesis, never goon. Again, one of these creatures that just physically cannot goon. I don't think Nemesis has a dick. Dude, masturbated. Like, do I even have to explain myself? It's a fucking Cenobite. The amount of freaky shit this creature, this person, if you can even call a Cenobite a person, the amount of freaky deaky stuff this creature has done in one day overshadows everything else that could possibly said about this tier list. It is insane. I probably can't even get into it. I'm probably gonna get booted off the platform. But if you know, you know. He's 100% shoving the tip of his chain into his cock. That's not even, and that would be tame. That's tame for him. Artist is another very tragic character. You know, tortured by the entity, forced to do things she doesn't want to do. While some people might argue that her new ink hands and the fact that she can shape them are actually really good for gooning, I'm actually gonna agree. That being said though, with how depressed she is, I don't see her gooning that much. I think she's right next to Trapper, an infrequent gooner. She might have gooned quite a bit when she was a human, you know, especially because of how sad she was constantly. She would have probably fallen back on touching herself quite a bit, you know, to ease the pain. But I just don't see her doing it that much now that she's in the Fox. She probably does it every now and then, but it's pretty rare. Sadako, well, yeah, let me actually make sure. Okay, so Sadako is an actual adult. Or at least she was when she died. So technically, it's basically the same thing as Spirit. So it's not so bad. I still feel kind of weird ranking this though, because she does choose to manifest in like a very childlike form. But since it does say that she is an adult and she died as an adult, I'm gonna go and say, you know, she was the same age as Spirit. But I'd say, you know, the thing with Spirit is she is a Yamaoka. She has that rage in her blood. She was also stated to be like, you know, very headstrong, very confident, or maybe not confident, but you know, very, I don't even know how to describe it, but you know, she was a lot more outgoing than I think Sadako would have been. I think Sadako would have probably been very shy, a lot more of a shut-in. But you know, they're still both teenage girls. The same rule I said earlier still applies. She probably did do it quite a bit. The Dredge, she's never done it. I mean, unless when you categorize the Dredge, you also add in like every person he's ever consumed, but I don't think that applies. Again, DBD has a lot of creatures that just are not capable of doing it. Wesker. This is actually very difficult because I think this guy goons. Wesker goons. That's not even like a question. I think Wesker 100% goons a lot. The question is he freaky enough to get into Masturbator? I don't think so. You know, at most, I think he might use the Ouroboros tendrils, but I don't even think that's that crazy. That's basically like just having extra hands, unless he like starts putting those tendrils up other holes. But I don't see Wesker doing that. I think he's just a basic, you know, beater, a penis. So I think he probably beats it more than Ghostface, but with how like self-aggrandizing is and how much he loves himself and he thinks he's like the best fucking thing ever. He's probably like Trickster, where when he goons, he looks at himself in the mirror. I just don't think he would do it more than the Legion. The Legion are like insane gooning aficionados. So yeah. The Knight. Shit. This is where we're getting into tough territory because from the night forward, I don't know. Like, I low-key kind of quit the game, so I don't even know like as much lore of these characters. But I do know a little bit about the knight, and from what I get, I would say he's probably like a common gooner. I'm not adding his like little band of buddies into the knight because it's not the same thing as the Legion. That's just his power. You can't really play as them. So I'm gonna go ahead and say he probably gooned more than Huntress, and especially now that he's in the fog. Actually, no, never mind. No, he's a retired gooner because how the fuck is he gonna goon? Yeah, I'm stupid. My bad. I think he probably gooned more than all of these characters before getting in the fog, but now that he's in the fog, he probably can't even take that outfit off. If he can, I think he, like, inside of that outfit, he's gonna be so musty and disgusting. I don't even think he's gonna want to touch himself. So yeah, gooning aficionado, man. I think actually no. I'd say Wesker is so like self-centered that he might actually do it more than Skull Merchant. But 100%, this bitch is gooning constantly. I mean, you've seen her outfits. You've seen how she presents herself. Basically, every single one of her outfits has to have some sort of sexualization, whether it's showing her ass cheeks or her titties or anything. It's honestly kind of crazy how much she does it. But that just shows you how much of a self-centered, similar to Wesker, like sexually driven creature she is. So I don't doubt for a second she's a gooning aficionado. Singularity has never done it. I mean, what can I even say? It's a literal mass. He's a pile of shit. Singularity is literally like a pile of random goop and shit that just took form. He's a machine. He doesn't have any need for gooning. So yeah. I mean, they reproduce, but I feel like that's more the face hugger. You know, it's not like aliens physically have reproductive activities. They just throw some shit out there that will reproduce for them. And it's basically an animal, so I think it's like right there with Demogorgon. I think they both have similar enough of a chance of gooning, and by that I mean nothing. Like, I just don't see them doing that. Huh. So here's the thing. I was instantly gonna drop Chucky into retired gooner because, you know, the person Chucky was before turning into the doll, you can tell that man was into gooning heavy. But with how he is now, I was like, oh, he's a doll. That doll doesn't have a reason to have a penis, you know, it's like a toy. But then you remember he has a kid, or he found a way to have a kid while being a doll. So I'm gonna go ahead and say he goons more. I don't think he would goon more than Ghostface, because Ghostface is he's just the right level of weird and freaky with all those pictures and how, like, you know, weird. Like, there's no better word for it. Ghostface is just a weird guy. And I think he has more free time to do it than Chucky would. Chucky is constantly like trying to kill somebody or on the run or doing random bullshit. So I think Chucky would probably do it, and when he does do it, he's a bit more freaky than the clown, especially now that he has Tiffany and shit. But I just don't see him doing it more than these guys. Unknown. Shit. You know, it's kind of a difficult situation because your first instinct might be to say, oh, Unknown's never gooned. You know, it's not even like a human. It's literally just something. But that's the thing. It's something. How do you know the thing it is doesn't goon? There's no real like evidence pointing to the fact that it goons or pointing to the fact that it doesn't. If anything, I might even argue that there is more evidence to it gooning, given that it has like tentacles and, like, you know, it spits out balls and shit. How do you know when he uses his UVX that's not him nutting? You don't know. That's why he's unknown. That being said, I'm just gonna leave him down here. Honestly, I don't know. There's no way of knowing. There really is no way of knowing. So I'm just gonna say, I hope he does, because that would low-key be funny as fuck. But I just don't think he does. Vecna. Vecna. I don't know too much about D&D lore, to be fair. I just know he's like a dark lord. He's kind of similar to Wesker in that he's like hella self-centered, and he thinks he's like the most powerful thing ever, which I guess in D&D he technically is. Not in DBD, obviously, but, you know. I don't think he can goon. You know, I think his anatomy, especially like with how he is right now, maybe before he became whatever the fuck he is now, I think he was like a normal human at some point. He probably did, but yeah, I'd say he's a retired gooner. When he was a normal human, he probably did it like, he probably did it more than Blight. I don't think he did it more than Oni though. So I'm just gonna leave him down there, honestly, because I don't have enough knowledge on Vecna to say. Dracula, he is a vampire. Vampires, especially as media has portrayed them for the past few years, are hella freaky. I don't know if Dracula would stoop so low as to jerk off though. I feel like whenever he feels the need, he would just get pussy. Like, vampires just have this power of getting pussy whenever they feel like it. Or dick, I guess, if you want to go by the vamp definition. But Dracula, I'd say he's like infrequent. And I'm gonna say, I'm gonna say he's infrequent. He doesn't do it as more than Trapper, but he does it more than Artist, I'd say. Especially now that he's in the fog. Before the fog, I would go as far as to say he probably like only did it once or twice. But now that he's in the fog and he can't as comfortably, you know, just find his wife or a random woman to satisfy his needs whenever he gets the urge, I feel like, you know, he might do it every now and then. Not that crazy though. Houndmaster, another character I just have no fucking clue about her lore. I just know she was like a pirate or something. She probably did. Honestly, I'm gonna say she did it less than Artist, just because I'm not sure. But since she is a normal human, technically, like she doesn't have any supernatural powers, she probably had like a semi-relative normal life, at least like in comparison to other killers. She had a normal life growing up. She probably, you know, got the urge, just did it. But as of now, as of this point in her life, especially now being in the fog, I just don't see her doing it that often. Ken Kaneki. This is another situation where I have not watched the anime. I don't know enough about the character. I know him having sex is like a big thing, like for his character, because like, you know, he hates himself after becoming a ghoul. So I wouldn't doubt it. And you know what? I'm actually, I just don't know. Honestly, it's so hard. I just don't know enough about the character to make a judgment. But off of the extremely limited knowledge I have possession of in this little tiny noggin, I'm gonna go ahead and say he's probably... Shit! He's a retired gamer. I'm gonna say that. Since he was a teenager, you know, hormones, needs, I'm gonna say he did it more than ever. I'm actually gonna say he did it more than all these characters. I think he did it more than all these characters, but once he became a ghoul, he probably like lost a lot of the urge to do it. You know, he feels disgusted with himself. He probably just doesn't do it at all. And especially now that he's in the fog, since he's in this like permanently enraged, crazy state after he got tortured a lot, I just don't see him like even taking a second to goon. That's just not gonna happen with him. So I'm gonna comfortably say he's a retired gooner, but he used to goon more than all these characters. Springtrap, retired gooner. I would go as far as to say he gooned more than all these characters when he was William Afton, because, you know, he just strikes me as that kind of weird guy. William Afton has always been a weird, like, theater kid, just an odd guy to be around. You probably wouldn't even want to be close to him. That's why I hate all these fan arts of William Afton trying to draw him as like some sexy, super handsome guy, when I just know for a fact he's not. He's just a fucking weirdo. So yeah, he was a gooner, but obviously since he got spring locked, his cock is probably trapped in some gears. Well, his cock is not there anymore. We've seen his model below the animatronic suit. There's no cock anymore. But once he got spring locked while he was just rotting, I just don't doubt that that dick was like shoved in between some gears. Probably couldn't even move it. So yeah, that's where he's staying. The cross suit. This is another character that like I just don't know enough about. I know she was a singer and, you know, she drank something or like got in touch with some cursed object that like gave her the curse of the cross suit, which again I don't know enough about the cross suit lore to know if it changes your personality or whatever. This might sound like daft and stupid as hell, but since she was a beautiful woman and she was pretty young, I would make the assumption she probably did it like a normal amount. But now that she's a crossu, I don't know, bro. Honestly, it's such a tough situation. I legitimately have like no clue as to what she would do now that she's in the fog. So I'm gonna go ahead and say she's a retired gooner, and she probably did it more than Nurse, just not that much anymore. You know, since she's been possessed and in the fog. Henry Creel. This is a very difficult one to actually assess because, my bad, you gotta take into account his early life, you know, when he was growing up, and his life in the lab before becoming Vecna. Henry has always been a bit of an odd, like, character. Not just in how he acts, but also his mindset. You know, his obsession with spiders. He's probably neurodivergent, and I wouldn't be surprised if he's asexual in some kind of way, as he's, at least as far as I know. Maybe in that one like Stranger Things play, there is like some allusions as to who he would be, like maybe a crush he had in high school or anything like that. But as far as I know, there's never been any sexual or romantic even like attraction when it comes to Henry Creel. So I would not be surprised if he like has never gooned, or maybe only did it once and didn't like how it felt. I'm gonna say he's right next to Plague in the way he probably didn't like it if he did try it. Jason. Now, granted, this is not the Jason of the movies, unfortunately. We actually don't even know a whole lot about this Jason. I'm gonna assume his last name is still Voorhees, but that's not, I don't even know if that's confirmed in the lore. It might be. We don't know anything about this guy's backstory. He's not from Camp Crystal Lake. His mom is probably not Pamela. His dad was probably still abusive, but I don't know. Again, this is a tough situation because Jason is not really a character that we know. We really have nothing to know about him other than he just goes around a bunch of DBD like world locations killing people, and he had like a 1v1 settling match with the unknown. That's about everything we got on him. And with how odd he is, I'm honestly just going to say he's never done it. Jason, I'm going to go off of the movies and try to make the assumption that, like, he's right there, neck and neck with Myers. But at least, unlike Myers, Jason is somebody with emotion. Now, granted, that is a twisted as emotion, and mostly just filled with rage. But he has been shown to be emotional in certain situations, especially when it has to do with his mom. So yeah, I wouldn't doubt if he like maybe tried it or even like thought about it. But yeah, I just don't see him doing it, man. But yeah, that's really it. This is the complete DBD killer tier list ranked by how much they might or might not goon. Honestly, I thought we would have a lot more gooners in this tier list, a fairly low amount of characters that I think actually gooned, but I think that's just what the DBD world is kind of like, especially when you try to take it into account when it comes to the current timeline. You know, I'm taking most of these characters into account as of the time they're in the fog. If I were to try to rank them before the fog, a lot of these would probably be higher. I just think it's better to try and be more objective and take into account the actual lore and situations they are in. But yeah, if you disagree with me, leave it in the comments. If you want to add something, maybe something I missed about a character's lore, which I definitely fucking did, then go ahead and say it in the comments. Thank you for watching a lot. If you enjoyed this shit show, then like, subscribe, anything you want to do. And I hope all of you have an amazing day, night, or afternoon, or whatever it is. Thank you for watching. I love you all.